criticizing is something that I've been doing for you quite for some time now.
I want to be like, oh, how's your life at Microsoft?
Yeah.
I want to be like, how is it different from OnePlus?
होना चाहिए.
Fail fast.
अरे fail.
Fail only.
You're looking in personalities as well, not just portfolio. Something be scared of somebody else stealing your ideas. Your ideas, I would ever be prouder than that, if that's a word. The siblings are that blessing that you have, that you recognize me. And my sis called me to judge a photography event, and I was 18, and I was judging people who were coming from IIT, NIDs, and all the other designers have this one diary, ये करना है, and 2 साल बाद, bro, ये तो 3 साल पहले मैंने लिखा था.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Lemon Lessons with Anusha. Today, we are thrilled to have Rushab Kataria, a mentor not only to me but to countless students at MITID, joining us in the Lemony spotlight. Now, starting off as a number crunching CA enthusiast, he decided to add a splash of creativity to his life and dove headfirst into the vibrant world of UX design. With stints at tech giants like Microsoft, Deloitte, and Flipkart, he's not just dipped his toes but dived deep into the pool of design and research. And if that's not impressive enough, he wears many hats, including that of an educator at MITID in Shillong and Pune. So, if you've ever found yourself pondering why your internship hunt feels like searching for a needle in a lemon stack, or if you're contemplating a career pivot but don't know where to start, fear not. Rushab's here to spill the secrets on how to shake things up and squeeze the most out of a life as a designer. So, let's get into it.
Hello, Rushab. Welcome to the podcast. How are you?
I'm good, Anusha. What's up?
Nothing is up. You tell me what's up. How's it been?
It's good. It's pretty good. Been a good year.
Been a good year?
Yeah.
In what sense it's been a good year?
I guess all the way. It was pretty good. Like, from work for sure, because I completed like a year at Microsoft. Then also like from, in general, like I started teaching at MIT Shillong. So it's just been a good year in general. I just feel like it's been pretty good.
Let's start with your timeline. Let's start it according to that.
Mm-hmm.
CA, after college. How was that? And what was it?
So basically it wasn't really something that I was looking at. So after boards like 10th, I was looking to get into arts, but I was like, okay, let's go for commerce because safer side. Also coming from a Marwadi family and just knowing business really well, I thought that commerce was a way for me because I anyway more or less had a plan to get into some kind of entrepreneurship in general. So just wanted something of my own. So I was like, let's try it out. And you can always do art by side. And I've been doing photography for longest that I remember. So I did get an opportunity with a really well-named brand, and I was working with them for quite some time as a research photography intern. So that's where I guess majority of the artsy side of me went into. But yeah, like I guess it was more about also the people. So I come from Ahmednagar. A lot of people around me were doing commerce and they were looking at CA, and I was like, okay, cool, if my friends are doing it, let's give it a shot. Like, what's the harm, right? So I was like, okay, let's try it out. And that's how actually I got into commerce intensely, and then gave my entrance for CA and cleared it. I don't know. I just isn't a plan. It was something that was an easier option to look at because there were not a lot of avenues back then. UX in 2014 wasn't really a term or a buzzword that it is right now.
Right.
But yeah, it was just something that was there but didn't really have a term. And I wasn't really sure where I wanted to go and get into because I was really into photography and I was doing a lot of wildlife and tabletop. And I was working with some crazy people. So I really loved what I was doing by side. So the entire time that I was in commerce, even for my bachelor's, I was in commerce. The reason I took commerce was so that I could balance my other side, which was working as a research photographer. And I worked on some crazy good projects. And I guess that's where I realized that, oh, I really love research. I really love photography, and putting both of them together was a lot of understanding compositions, visuals, and talking to some like-minded people in photography industry. That was something crazy. And the way that I was discovered was because it was early stage of Instagram and it came down, and this is like back in 2011 if I'm not wrong. And I was discovered by a photographer in Milan, and he reached out because he was coming down to India and he needed some young fellow to just, like shadow him throughout. And I don't know, like I probably just right people, right time situation. And that's how I got into photography. And then, yeah, I guess it just clicked. And then as I went into CA, I studied, and just one day I just go to my fam and I'm like, hey guys, I don't think so I really can do this anymore. That was never my calling anyway. We cleared exams and that's why we perceived it. I understand, but not my calling. And that's the same time when I got scholarship from NYIP, that's New York Institute of Photography. And that's where I had to take up a decision of moving to New York right away, because I got my scholarship and they needed me to be there in, I guess, less than 2 months, because my interview process took a bit more time than expected, and I was not really expecting to get through, because NYP is a big deal and I really have like a commerce background. I don't really come from the, the background that I thought that it needed. So that's something that was there. But yeah, like I don't think so. Like I was really confident back then in myself, and I really thought that, oh, I wish I had some better understanding, more technical understanding, which now I feel isn't everything that you really need when you're getting into art, but I guess that's fine. And that's where I started. When I was working with this particular company and this particular guy, we were working for a lot of magazines, a lot of websites, and that's where I realized that, oh, like research is like a huge part of what I do than photography, and photography comes by side, hand in hand, and both of them put together is something that I'm really loving to do.
Yeah.
And slowly, while working with people there, I got to know this term called experience design. And when we talk about experience design here, we are not really talking of digital experience or something. It is more about just an experience that you're creating for your users. Let it be from storytelling point of view. Let it be something from their website point of view. It's like a mass audience. We are looking at a global audience. And the project that we were looking at was civet is a type of cat, and they were traveling from southern part of India into the Western Ghats, which was a really weird migration that they were looking at, and that's what we were tracking. And that's where I guess I realized that, oh, like this is super interesting, and I got into it. The deeper I got, the more people I was involved with, and that's where this experience bit came into game. And this was, I guess, till the time I cleared my bachelor's was almost done, and that's when I was like, oh, I really need to figure out what I want to do next. Do I want to move with the same company as a photographer, or do I not? And I guess that was the main decision that actually changed things for me. And not getting into photography, I guess it was majorly because I really thought that if I'm doing photography full time, I'm going to lose out on a passion that I'm doing for fun and not really for money. And yeah, that's where I started looking for options, and that's how I guess design happened. Because design was always there. It was always a part of what I did. It was always part of what, like in general we were doing, and I was surrounded by, just probably not having correct terms to it, like a visual designer or UX. We were just artists. We were just plain artists. We were telling stories when we were writing blogs. We had to think of what kind of words we were using and photographs we were using for particular audience, because magazines needed a very different set of storytelling versus the website, versus the way that we were presenting ourselves via emails and stuff. So just learned a lot about people as well. So when you learn about people, experience, design, that's when I started reading more into it. Like, is there something that I can do with all of these things put together? And with all of these things happening in the background, my another passion for tech has been huge. Like, I've been massive person in tech. Like, I was somebody who saw the entire Android coming into game. I've used Symbian mobile. I don't even think so half of your audience would know what Symbian is, but I've used Symbian, and then I've used like a different, Bada was another operating system by Samsung, and a lot of those things, and they intrigued me in some way. I was always interested in, updates was a big thing back then, because updates now are really minor. Back in the day, a update coming to your phone would refresh that entire experience. And I didn't have an engineering background, and I'm like, oh shit, I wish I did engineering as my bachelor. This is super cool. And that's how I guess I just got into understanding that, designing is also a part of it, and how do I get into it, and read more. And I guess that's how I stumbled upon that entire term of UX designing and UI UX designing. And that was my introduction to this entire industry. So yeah, I guess more or less that was the journey to discovery of UX in general.
So right now, when you mentioned about, you were talking and then you had like an emphasis on I thought, right? I thought that, I need all these things, like I need assistance and I need like, back in that time, do you think if you had, like, for example, me, I have a good amount of guidance from people. Do you think अगर आपके पास वो guidance होती, would that whole situation been better for you? या फिर do you think it's better to, navigate your way through अपने आप, understand, make mistakes? What is your call on that?
So no, for sure. So see, so there are like two way outs to it, right? So I come from a T3 city. I don't come from T1, T2. Luckily, I have families, extended families in T1, T2s. That's where I also get to know a lot of things that were happening back in the day. Like this is like 2010 what I'm talking of, where internet wasn't that huge. Like when I say that huge, I mean internet was there for sure. Like it wasn't that easily accessible, and you didn't really know what the power of internet as a kid. And I come from a proper business family. We have like, I don't think so anybody in my family.
Marwadi.
Yeah, like a proper Marwadi family. Yeah, like everybody in my family more like we have doctors, engineers, and business people. Like
Yeah.
having correct set of people always helps.
Yeah. And
Having correct set of people who understand these things always helps. So being more of artsy or just being somebody who's traveled, like another thing that photography made me do was travel. And I guess traveling helped me reach to more people, and that's how I realized that, oh, there's a different world than science and commerce and arts, where arts was also not really looked up upon. So navigating yourself for sure is a really cool way. That's something that I did, but I don't think so right now you really need to do it. Things are way more accessible. Things are way more close to you, and I feel you should find, if not you really have people around you, you should find people around you to talk and discuss more upon, because the virtues are huge now. And your parents or your families also understand what you're doing way better than then, because I had to explain my parents what photography was and how do I feed myself with photography.
Yeah, how was that journey? Because right now you said, अभी now अगर मैं इस situation को अपने दिमाग में रखूँ, I'm a person who cracked CA, which is not something everybody can do. And then you're going, like, if my child did that and that person is coming up to me and telling me, I just want to keep all that aside, want to go in a completely new avenue. How was the reaction, and was it was it supporting, like?
So it was a crazy journey in general, because I knew since the beginning that I really don't want to be CA, but I was like, okay, pass ho rahe to kyun nahi? So that was the way that I took. But once I realized that, oh nahi, this is not how I want to put my few years of my life into, and this is not how I see myself living. So the easiest way there's like level 2, that's IPCC. I studied for it, and during exams, I'm like, okay, like exam 1 went well, paper 2 went well, and I was like, I'm not giving my next exam.
Yeah.
I told my fam, I'm not well, I don't think so, I'll skip this attempt. And that was my first direction of knowing that, oh, I don't want to do this. The only reason I skipped it was because I don't want to clear again, so that I don't have to move ahead. So I was like, okay, let's do this. And after that, I just sat with my parents and I'm like, listen, if I clear it, if I didn't even know if I would, it's not that easy. And I don't think so, like I was really prepared anyway. But I was like, I just sat it down with my parents and I'm like, I really don't think so. This is what I want to do for the rest of my life. Even if I'm clearing, I'm doing it for the sake. And that's when my dad was like, leave it. You know, like it doesn't make sense. If you're going to put 5 years of your life into it and you're not going to do it, it doesn't make sense anymore. Do what you want to do. But yeah, we don't think so we can actually help you in this entire journey, because we don't really have enough knowledge about it. So I really hope that you have correct people around you. And I have an elder sister who's a dentist, and she was somebody who really helped support. So I guess like that was another way of me or my parents getting to understand that, okay, I can really, pivot. And she was something, I just feel that elder siblings are that blessing that you have, that, you can just use them as a shield, like, hey, this is what I want to do. And please can you convince fam and chill. And more than that, I guess it was my grandfather who really believed in me. And he was like, please go ahead and do your master's, it's fine. And during my master's, to be honest, even I didn't have any clue while getting into UX, because I didn't know if it even had money. I just did it for the sake of, oh, I really like
Doing
what they do, and I really am doing what they're doing, but it's just going to take me in a different direction, so why not? So yeah, my grandfather was somebody, I would say, who supported and who was like that major piece of support that came into the game. And my dad, it was more or less a gamble for my parents, for sure.
Yeah.
So it wasn't the easiest route of telling your bunny parents that and my dad really never wanted me to join the business. He was like, you do what you want to do. And he knew that I was not somebody who could stay back in Ahmednagar. He knew that I was somebody who was going to move out regardless. So he was like, I don't really want you to join the business right now. You have something to fall back upon. Go make mistakes. And I was like, okay, cool. Like, let's take it as a year and let's try it out. So I feel it was a bit easier for me to convince my family. Also, my extended family, we have a lot of artists in my family as well. Like one of my cousins was already in the US studying design.
Yeah.
And I guess, and my parents knew I was artsy in general. And yeah, I guess also the scholarship from NYIT helped convince that, okay, like there is something that, like I am doing, or, like something that I have something in me in general. I just feel like that was a direction. But it wasn't easy. It wasn't easy to convince them that there is a career. It was easy to convince them that I could do it, and they had that faith in me that, oh, ye kar lega kuch to bhi.
Yeah.
Like he'll navigate his way.
So yeah, that is what I was about to ask. Now, abhi jaise you said ki itna nahi laga mehnat to convince them, but was it because your parents were chill about it, or was it because back in your days you did prove yourselves in certain थोड़े ways में that वो confidence build up हुआ? Because obviously अभी कोई बच्चा पूरे time Netflix and chill कर रहा है, मम्मी पापा से बोले कि मम्मी मेरे को नहीं करना है, obviously like parents, I don't, so do you think that's a major factor?
Oh, for sure, yes. So, see, at least the way that my parents work is they would want me to do something that I really enjoy, because they know that's how you can live your life. You can't do something under that pressure of, oh, I want to do it. And I've always been somebody who's always taken my own decisions and taken my own route. I was not somebody who was very conventional with things. Ki, okay, this is happening, let's do it.
Yeah.
With convenience, I could join my dad's business, and that was really easy for me. Something I was sure nahi karna hai. And my parents also made sure that you do what you can do, and then we'll see you have something to fall back upon. And proving myself, yes, I guess for sure. So there were quite a few instances that happened like very early in my career, like very early in the stage, like getting an opportunity from a huge name brand to intern with them straight up without having anything was another way.
Then
I can't really. So
Can't really.
again, legalities, NDA.
realities.
But yeah, so I can't name the people as well, because yeah, it was a different thing back in the day. Because yeah, it's not that easy to just, join bigger projects for research like that. But yeah, so I guess it's just a lot of things. And then Symbiosis recognized me, and Symbiosis called me to judge a photography event. And I was 18, and I was judging people who were coming from IIT, NIDs and all the other places, and they were doing their masters, and there was like a photography and arts event. And I guess those were a few pillars that also gave my parents that confidence of, okay, he knows probably what he's doing.
Yeah.
And I guess it's also you and the drive that you get on table, that your parents are going to, अगर तुम घर पे बैठ के DSLR लेके ये बोल रहे हो कि यार photography करना है, that's not how things are gonna work.
Yeah.
I've done a lot of solo trips early in the time. I had to convince my parents that I can travel solo. So I had to take trips, and I've done everything super budget. I would go out for a month, and regardless of doing all of these things, I was not compromising on commerce at all.
Okay.
I got through my bachelor's with amazingly good grades, something that I would not even expect for somebody who wasn't attending colleges. This was all like last minute preps for me. yeah, super, because I really didn't even know what syllabus we had, but luckily because I was studying for CA, I knew things.
Okay.
So it wasn't like I was not doing what they wanted. So I also gave them bharosa that हाँ मैं CA भी कर रहा हूँ, but I know what I'm doing, so मेरे को मेरा passion.
So you just put it out there that I can do it, I just don't want to do it.
For sure, yeah. See, can do it hai, don't want to do it bhi hai, but it's also like I am able to balance things. Balancing, that's something that I really learned early in my life, that you need to balance your passion or something that you really love with something that is more conventional, because it's not very easy for our parents, at least back in the day, it wasn't that easy for them to be very okay with, oh, tu design karega, because design was like, what is design, right? Like, it's a huge umbrella, and for a lot of people, designing is only fashion designing. A lot of people didn't understand what I was doing when I said design back in the day, especially in Ahmednagar. But I guess, like when it comes to family, it's more about, for me at least, it was, I wouldn't say like convincing them is a bigger thing. I would say that having confidence in yourself and low-key proving yourself was more important.
So 2 questions from now. One, do you think now the times have changed in terms of design and how? And secondly, once you said that, that it wasn't more about, it was more about the building confidence in myself. So some ways in which you can guide the audience, how can you build that confidence in your own self?
So to answer your first question, for sure times have changed. There are way many people, way too many applications that are going into design right now. There's also a lot of visual content that has been taken in. The consumption of visual content has gone up with Instagram, with a lot of other platforms. With mobile phones boosting up, a lot of digital content has been given that push. And aesthetics, a word that wasn't used that commonly, is a word that everybody's using for every day. So I feel there are a lot of things when it comes to easy accessibility of internet and the world. And yeah, it's for sure easier for parents and the kids to know about design and what exactly designers do and how much they earn. For sure, like money is a factor for a lot of parents to look into. So wo bhi hai. So there are a lot of things. Yeah, I feel times for sure have changed. Things have become way more accessible. Things have become way more easy. And acceptance for parents have also come into play. Like, okay, let them do what they want to do, because I guess like parents are more okay with their kids failing now than they were back in the day. Because pehle se the job security was again a huge thing. But now looking at the way freelance entrepreneurship world is going, I feel it's super cool. Like parents can see that, like a lot of my students at MIT are already doing freelance gigs and they are earning some really good amount for themselves and they're doing really good for themselves.
Yeah.
Or when, like, summer breaks or whatever it is. And just looking at that, I guess that's how you build confidence. That's how you give, not for yourself, for your parents, like you just give them passion. कर रहे हैं, होगा, खुद का गुजारा तो कर सकते हैं. But because in the end, your family doesn't really, or your parents don't really want you to do something. They just want you to be stable in general. So stability is something there, and I feel design has given that stable platform to them.
Okay.
And
The second question.
to answer your second question, I guess building confidence, the easiest way that I can put it is just do something that you really are passionate for. Do something that you really care for, and something that really makes you feel like you're creating an impact. Because once you know that, oh, I am creating an impact, या मेरे वजह से कुछ तो change हो रहा है, it's always going to take you in a good direction. And I feel that is something what you should look at. And I'm not saying social impact only. I'm saying impact in general.
Okay.
It can be a social impact. It can be a business impact. It can be any kind of, but there should be something that drives you. See, once you're really passionate about something, that's when you push yourself to do even more, and you're going to do it happily. You're going to do it with more of your heart. If you tell me, Rushab, यार CA pass हो रहे थे तो क्यों नहीं किया? Because it wasn't coming from within. It wasn't something that I was enjoying. And when you enjoy something that you do, people can see that around you and they get that aura. And I feel that helps the journey be easier. It's not like design easy hai, but if you really enjoy it and if you're really gonna do it well, you can just like get into it.
Yeah.
Because I come from design background, I'm just gonna focus on that. But just use it as an example. But yeah, I feel building confidence kuch nahi hai. Like put yourself out there, talk to more people, just know what's happening around you and just try to, I feel more from design POV or more from art point of view, if you can put yourself out there a little bit more, it's just going to help you boost yourself more. And another good thing for building confidence is accepting feedbacks and critique. And I feel you know it way better than I do, because criticizing is something that I've been doing for you quite for some time now. And you know like how it works with me, at least. I really believe in, if you can take critical feedback well, that's how you're growing and that's how you build your confidence. Oh, like you always have it in back of your mind, you have it in your periphery, like, oh, this is what I remember Rushab telling this, or I remember somebody else telling this, and okay, not again.
Yeah.
And I feel that is super important for you to build.
Right now you mentioned that, go out there, do it. Abhi only back in like behind the scenes, we had this conversation where you said executing and brainstorming. You need to have a prop. Now, there are people who execute and there are people who sit and brainstorm, and there are people who balance also.
Yeah.
But बहुत लोग होते हैं जो extremes में दोनों में चले जाते हैं.
Yeah.
How would you like to comment on that? Because I know people who have been brainstorming for 1 year. They have been just brainstorming, just thinking, and now they have brainstormed so much that the level has reached here कि अब डर रहे हैं कि execute होगा तो वैसा नहीं होगा, which is true. It won't. You will. And for people who are just executing, they can't stop and think कि, oh wait, what am I doing? Because there's so much in the flow. So how to find the balance, and what's your say on it?
Oh, I feel this is so common with all my students or with myself also. I find myself in both the situations very often. There are certain times I'm executing very easy. There are certain times I'm just brainstorming to make things really better or the best before putting myself out there. So I would say there's no harm in being either of them. And it's not something that, you can do to change your personality a lot of times. Maybe you can try your best to put yourself out there and make those smaller mistakes, but it's not it's easier said than done. Like if somebody like you who really loves to execute, I've been telling you to brainstorm for like past 3 years, but that's not something you do brainstorm. I'm not saying you don't, but it's just to a level that, oh, I want to step back. मैं एक बार करती हूँ, वापस जाती हूँ. But no, you're a go-getter. That's your personality. So I'm not going to tell you like, hey, Anusha, you're not doing it. So here, what I feel is really good is finding that balance in a partner or finding somebody else who you can work well with. So just finding that other person, like just work in twos, and maybe you can just use best of both worlds.
Yeah.
So somebody's doing that bit for you, brainstorming for you and creating that concrete, and you're just executing it. So find these people, they're around you.
Yeah.
Probably the people who are brainstorming are introverts, you are extroverts. So I myself, I really love to have certain things done, but I really don't love to be in front of the camera. So I'm always on lookout for people who can do things in front of camera for me, where I can actually create an entire platform for them.
Yeah.
So I have like billion ideas, but it's very difficult to find people as well. So you should know to find correct people, or you should also be open to failing, because something like one thing that internet has done, I wouldn't say bad, but I would also say like it is setting up standards for people.
Yeah.
So if you're getting into tech and you're going to be like, oh, I want to be the next MKBHD, you also need to know that MKBHD in 2010 was something with just one phone camera and basic gadgets and his own laptop in hand. He isn't somebody who had read the equipment that he's using since day one. So that's the growth. That's something that you're doing and it's fabulous. But also like there are certain times you need to also understand it. This is the time where you might want to fast forward. You can be like, oh, MKBHD जैसे कि मैं वो start करूँगा. We are not at that time right now because accessibility is higher.
Yeah.
So you also need to understand that brainstorm करते रहो, but just give it a shot. Just, like give it a small shot of doing things. So I don't know, like if the name is correct, is her name Mithila Palkar, who's in Little Things. So I don't know if so the cup song was something that was a trial that she did and put on YouTube just for the sake of it. And she was like, this isn't perfect, but why not? And that was like, she uploaded it for fun. And that's how she got her fame. That's how like people started recognizing her.
Yeah.
And that's what she said, like something that I learned from her is, she just put herself out there for fun and it happened. It worked for her. Same thing for me is, I gave my entrance for MIT for a trial round. I filled my form a day later, like last date tha, wo din form submit kiya, and I was just doing it because I realized like, oh no, I want to get into design, and I just completed my bachelor's and now I have a year to study for it, and I enrolled myself to a course where I can get more technical information about a lot of things in design. And I just gave MIT ka entrance for the hell of it. I'm like, dekhte kya rehta hai. Just, like to get to know what the world is and everything. I cracked it. I cracked my DAT and I'm like, oh, interesting. Like I did. And I'm like, okay, let's go to portfolio. Having a good portfolio in photography and research, I lacked from technicalities. But luckily, I knew a lot of things that were coming up because being into the tech world, I just knew a lot of things that were to come up because I was reading and listening and I was really into the future of tech, and I used that knowledge and built a portfolio, and I cracked that as well, which was again came down to me as surprise because after joining MIT, I got to know that they don't really hire people from commerce. That's not a criteria that you can get through. But luckily that portfolio helped me, and again, like putting yourself out there. If I didn't give that DAT and I came down after a year, probably I wouldn't have gotten into MIT at all and got into my master's at all in general. So I feel just taking that risk and a leap of faith is something that's super important. And yeah, I guess it just goes for both of them. But yeah, there are going to be times where you're like, Rushab, yaar, ye nahi hoga. It gives me anxiety. It doesn't really work for me. Find people who can work the other part of you.
Yeah.
So find people, and if you're in college and if this particularly you're in office, just look for people. Yeah, I feel people are available and everybody is looking for opportunities.
Yeah.
Just go there and be like, hey, like, do you think there's an idea that I have? Just bounce your ideas. तुम्हारा idea कोई चोरी कर रहा है, it's okay. Because anyway, you're not executing it. So बाद में तुम वैसे भी रोने वाले हो कि अरे ये तो मेरे पास आइडिया था, अनुषा ने तो ऑलरेडी कर लिया उसने. But at least if you would have asked, by chance it worked out, वो तुम ही कर रहे थे आइडिया. So a lot of those things, don't be scared of somebody else stealing your ideas. Your ideas are not that unique and somebody else is going to always take them down. We are humans in the end. But if you're not going to take that leap, you're never going to make it happen. Things are going to be in your diary, and everybody knows, all designers have this one diary, ये करना है, and 2 साल बाद, bro, ये तो 3 साल पहले मैंने लिखा था, and he's already done it.
Makes sense.
So yeah, just do it. A lot of people are doing free water. If you know the company called Free Water in the US, a lot of people came down with a similar concept in India already. Where I know a lot of people who are telling me, Rushab, let's try and do this. And I'm like, cool, let's do it. And it's already there. And now they're like, abhi nahi karna hai. Kyun nahi karna hai? Competition, it doesn't mean that you stop, right? So a lot of things, I guess, as designers, we sometimes just feel we are not enough. Or abhi nahi karna hai. Or we just question ourselves way too much than we need to. So that's what I do. I'm not saying that, oh, main sab nahi karta. I do it way too much. And I guess I have way, if you just put down a lot of projects, dream projects on a ladder, I'm just gonna reach the sky, I feel. So just because I'm seeing, because yeah, again, like, just talking about it is way easier than executing it. So if you are somebody who's in that shoes where, oh, isliye to bol diya collaborate karna hai, but how do I reach down to people? That's something that even I struggle and I learn every day. And that's how it is. You struggle and you learn. And I guess that's how life in general is going to be. But you need to try. You need to try for sure.
So now, since we are going into the industry zone, let's start with the basic question. Right now, you said obviously there's a lot of acceptance in terms of design. People are getting to know about it, but what is the reality of it? Like, reality in the sense, not in terms of acceptance, from the other point of view, that's the job opportunities point of view. Because I think we've had conversations about it, and a lot of people who I know are struggling with it. So what's your say on the opportunities with side?
Oh, yeah, this is something that I get down a lot. कि वो opportunities है market में नहीं है. Like we are just hearing that people aren't getting jobs and all.
Yeah.
I feel UX, like particularly, let's talk about UX particularly, and then maybe we can go towards a broader spectrum. UX is very versatile. Anybody and anyone and anybody can actually get into UX very easy if you just understand what it is about.
Yeah.
It's not about कि अच्छा technicalities नहीं आते तो भी आ सकते हो, वैसे नहीं है. But it's something that we have been doing. Just an easier example to put here from UX, right? You are going to your boards.
Yeah.
You know कौन सा पेन यूज़ करना है ताकि हैंडराइटिंग अच्छा आएगा. वो पेपर क्या क्वालिटी कैसे, उस पर कौन सा पेन अच्छा काम करेगा. What is going to give you a good grip to write for 3 hours straight? You might have different pens for English because you have to write a lot versus math where you don't, and things like that. You have been thinking about a lot of things. Paper thinking of that, check करना है, speed से लिखना है. We have been doing this since very early in our times. It's just not called experience UX and all of those things. Putting terms to it is something that changes it, but we've been doing it since we were really early into the game. So you need to understand anybody can enter this industry very easy if you have the correct skills, if you know how to present yourself.
Yeah.
So I would say that that is something that you need to understand. To come down to a point of opportunities, I feel it depends on how you look at opportunities to start with. Opportunities are always there. There are companies who are always going to be looking for people. Everybody wants people. There are a lot of startups. Correct opportunities is the word that you need to talk more of.
Okay.
Designers should start talking of ज़्यादा opportunities नहीं है versus there are no opportunities that are aligning with my thought process. Wherein your thought can be money,
Yeah.
your thought process can be work, your thought process can be execution, people, location, a lot of things.
And this thought process can change from time to time, right?
It does. It does. As you grow, it changes. It might start with passion, get into money, get into saturation, get into more experimental, get into diversity, get into money again. It's super fluid. It's super fluid. It depends on where you are and what stage are you at your life.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's also pushed upon you, family responsibilities, pushing you into money, and you have to. So it's not like, oh, मैं designer हूँ, I want to do passion projects only, so I'm going to settle down for less money. For example, कि कम पैसा है, but वहाँ पे projects अच्छे हैं, but you need to feed your family as well.
Yeah.
Are you dependent? Are they not?
Everybody has the
Not everybody has that luxury to choose always. So yeah. But to just come down to the point, opportunities बहुत है. And I know I'm going to get a lot of backlash for this. कि oh, you're saying opportunities बहुत है, but बेरोजगार भी बहुत है. I would say it's not just about having opportunities, also about sometimes creating them.
Yeah.
Do you have that in your portfolio that somebody is going to go out of their way to get you in? Because I have been in a situation and I could see it happen. So I feel you also need to have that additional zest to your personality or your portfolio or you yourself as a person in order for a company to go above and beyond for you as well. Not like companies aren't hiring right now, they are. Probably it is less than before, but you also need to understand that it's quality over quantity. So if you're really good, you're going to find a correct job.
Yeah.
You also need to be flexible initially or in general throughout your career if you are really picky about your jobs. And I'm not going to say that don't be picky about your jobs. Be picky. But you also need to be sensible कि 6 साल हो गए तुम picky और job ही नहीं मिल रहा है तो stupid हो तो. You're not picky. Take up certain opportunities. Take up an opportunity that's been thrown at you. If you're scared, just take it up. I feel that's the only thing that has helped me reach where I am at because I've taken opportunities which gave me the max anxiety.
Yeah.
I was scared. I'm like, I don't know if I can reach there. And I feel that's where again friends and family came down to be like, take it no, like, kya ho raha hai? They are believing in you, right? You need to understand this thing, something that I really learned hard way. And I'm like, am I really good enough for this particular company? Unhone to job offer di diya, but what if I'm not? And then I remember my dad telling me, or no, it was my sister actually. She told me, she's like, unhone tere ko job diya hai. They know what they are looking for. And if they can see it in you, probably you can't because they have more experience. Why can't you just go with an open mind of, if they can see it, I can do it.
Correct.
Maybe I'll learn and I'll do it.
Yeah.
And I guess that mindset is something that has gotten me to where I am at right now. If somebody else can see a better in you, just stop questioning yourself and just go out there and be like, हाँ ठीक है मैं हूँ, आता है मेरे को सब. What's the harm? You're gonna fail. But you're a junior designer, you're just starting. You're supposed to fail. I'm not expecting you to know everything. That's a burden we put on ourselves कि मेरे को सब आना चाहिए.
Fail fast.
अरे fail.
Fail only.
I wouldn't say fail fast, just fail. Failing is super important. Just know when to stop. Just know कि मैं इधर fail हुआ क्यों हुआ. You should also know like you have to go back and you have to understand where you failed and how you failed and कैसे वापस जाके bounce back करना है.
Yeah.
बस गलतियाँ मत करते जाओ.
Yeah.
क्यों हुई है वो भी तो समझो.
Make some.
And this is a journey, a design journey in general.
Now, in the technicalities of it, right now you
Just, sorry to cut you, but to get back to the opportunity game, right? Yeah. So create opportunities for yourself. There are a lot of opportunities out there. Sometimes they might or might not align with you, but you need to understand that try kar lo and try to reach out to people. Opportunities come ho rahe hain is something that market does show, market falls. Ye sab taraf hota hai. We are at a saturation of UX right now. Everybody is getting into it, from architect, engineering and everything. But if you have the correct things in correct time and you know how to reach to correct people, you're going to find it. I don't think so anybody better than you can, see it, because I've seen you take internships that even I wouldn't think you would get, because at that early in your career, cracking the companies that you have cracked, it wasn't just because of your skill, or it wasn't because you're a good designer. It was because you could you could present yourself well. You were good at storytelling. You had that convincing factor कि अनुषा को लेते आता भले उसको कुछ नहीं, हम बोल के सिखा के groom करके she'll get the work done. People don't want you to have skills. When I'm hiring, I don't want you to have all skills. I want to know if you can work with me better, if you can gel with my team better, because I need a cohesive environment. I don't want my team to be toxic and sad. I want my team to be
for
fun.
potential instead of skills.
I'm looking for somebody who can match the vibe that my team has, because I have
Vibe check is important.
super important. Yeah. So if I know कि मेरे को hire करना है, I don't only look at your portfolio. I majorly look at how you're presenting. तू कैसी है? तू chill है क्या? Like, would you fit well in my group?
Yeah.
Because I have a team to take care of. And if I'm taking somebody who's super technical, very good, but they are somebody who's like timeline रहेगा तो ही काम करेगा. And if my team is working very fluidly कि hey चलो अपने हिसाब से, they wouldn't match well. He's a great candidate, but not for my team.
Yeah.
So we are looking in personalities as well, not just portfolio. Something that I tell to a lot of my, we do a lot of one-on-one mentorship for portfolio, because a lot of designers, young designers, are scared कि Rushab, my portfolio isn't good enough. Can you help me? So we do a lot of portfolio critique sessions and I help them build a better portfolio. तब मैं उनको एक ही चीज़ बोलता हूँ, मैं तुमको 10 अच्छे प्रोजेक्ट बना के दे सकता हूँ. That doesn't mean कि तुम क्रैक करोगे. तुम मेरा पोर्टफोलियो भी लेके जाओ, फिर भी तुम क्रैक करोगे या नहीं वो कंपनी जो मैंने क्रैक किया, I don't know. It's about presentation and it's about convincing and it's about your personality in general.
Yeah. Okay.
I guess that's something that helps a lot. So yeah, sorry to cut you, but it's super important for people to know this, that it's not just your portfolio, it's your personality and the way you present yourself and your storytelling skills that also helps understand yourself.
Yes.
I can't judge you in 1 hour. मेरे पास इंटरव्यू में 1 घंटा, उसमें से आधा घंटा तो मैं बात कर रहा हूँ to understand you, and then remaining half an hour I'm going to take with your project. It's very small of a time to judge somebody. But to know if you can vibe with them in that 1 hour, why not?
It's a goal. I completely forgot my क्या post थी. Yeah. So in the technical bit of it, now obviously I wanted to ask this and you've answered it already, that what's the presentation versus skills.
Yeah.
But we've already gone through that. But now if I want to go technically, if you are seeing a portfolio.
Sir, I'm not going back to as I said, so I would rather redo everything what I said from storytelling, because फिर अगर तूने वो cut कर दिया तो as I already mentioned would go away. So it doesn't make sense anymore. So portfolio, normally a lot of designers think that there is a golden rule or there is like a particular, because I've seen a lot of YouTubers putting out my Google portfolio and all, and people tend to follow them. There's no harm in following anybody's style, but for me, portfolio is more about storytelling. It's more about your comfort, and it should be more representing you on a paper than the project. Because when somebody is looking at portfolio, they're not really looking at the project that you've done. They're looking at how did you work there? What are the things that you did? How was the impact? What did you like and didn't like? How do you take that entire journey and put it on paper? It's not about, because somebody's worked on a huge ass project, they're going to get the job. No, it's about, can they actually even talk about it really well, right? So it's about storytelling, super important. Your presentation and storytelling should go hand in hand, and that's super important. So there are no golden rules ki acha yahi karna hai. So I get a lot of students saying, hey Rushab, I really need help with my portfolio and all. So that's how we also have I did this one-on-one mentorship session, which is called portfolio critique. So what we do there is we do a nice 8 session to 10 session gig, and we start with one single project. We just work on one project, no spoon feeding. I have 1 hour syncs with them. Every sync we plan on something and they execute and they come back. And we plan, they execute, they come back. I give them feedback, they'll probably go back and they'll come. So this pure journey mein, because I'm not spoon feeding, they have to learn a lot. And I do this in a sprint manner. I do it at a very small timeline manner. I don't give them larger timelines for everything. Maybe research ke liye bada chunk de raha, but baaki ke liye kam. Because my goal here isn't that they make something huge. My goal is they do something in detail that they can actually talk about.
Yeah.
I'm trying to guiding them more towards doing a lot of things and doing, like a good project. I'm trying to give them or tell them, like, what exactly are you doing and why are you doing it? And there are quite a few things around it. So my suggestion is going to be, know what you're presenting. Don't put things for the sake of it. Don't just use fancy jargon terms because, oh, why not? Do you really know what the user journey means that you put that? Is the context to it correct? Oh, and also another like super important point is, for sure, add your failures during your project, especially if it's a live project. What was a bigger blocker there? How did you solve it? Because that now shows us, oh shit, like they did actually face something and this is how like they overcame it and that's how like the journey was. And it really helps me understand how do you tackle problems. That's something that is a lot of times overlooked. We think, oh, failure kaise dikha hai? Portfolio hai, happy party chahiye. No. Be real with your portfolio so that the questions that come out are really good. And put things that you're more confident of.
Yeah.
Use correct terms that you're more confident of because the questions are going to be triggered in that direction. You don't want people to navigate. And another thing that I see a lot of designers miss out is give me a short introduction of what you're trying to present.
Okay.
When you're beginning, tell me क्या सुन रहा हूँ मैं. वरना
Be
पूरा
context.
present कर रहे हो. Yeah, like you present the entire thing and then I understand the context of it. Build some story, build a nice introduction. There should be some context to, oh, this project, this is what I'm trying to do. So now I know what you're doing.
Just a question. Back, I think some days ago only I asked you about a form. That's also when you told me, tell me the context of it. But a lot of people, like I'm also counting my own self, we also kind of differ from, am I creating a bias by giving the context or like what's the say in that?
So see, now context from portfolio point of view, how are you going to create a bias? You are rather giving them more insight. So it's like going to an Avenger film and you're watching the 5th part and you're getting a recap. Is the recap creating a bias? No. But the recap is trying to set some context to it. So it's more about setting context for your user. Now when you send me a feedback form, it was about a particular product that you're working on. Maybe you thought कि वो बोलने से bias होगा, but
Yeah.
I didn't know what I was talking about. I didn't know like there's such a huge spectrum of things that I was doing. A little context of what you are trying to do would have helped.
Okay.
So we have done a lot of user studies at Oneplus. When I was working at Oneplus, it's a B2C firm. We are doing operating system design for them. So operating system 13K time I was working with them and I had to talk to a lot of users. If I'm not giving them context of what I'm doing, how do they know what they're supposed to do? I'm not creating a bias. I'm just telling them कि guys like मैं XYZ कर रहा हूँ. You don't have to tell them what you're trying to achieve. You don't have to tell them क्यों. You just have to give them some base guideline ताकि पता है क्या करना है. It's like, I'm taking you to a swimming pool and I'm like, go. Go for what? Do you want me to sprint? Do you want me to just chill? Do you want me to do something? Do you want to see what am I looking at? I need to know the small bits of क्या चाहिए क्या, वो तो पता रहना चाहिए ना. वरना तुम मुझको पूछेगी ऋषभ, do you use a smartwatch? And I'm like, yeah. I don't know, but hey Rushab, so I'm just studying about smartwatch and I really want to do XYZ. Like I'm just looking into this particular space and I would like to improve the experience. So I just want to know, like more things around how you use it, why you use it and things around it. Now I'm like, okay, more comfortable with it. Now I know what direction to give you. Oh, maybe it'll not create a bias, it'll rather let me articulate things better. वरना मैं तो देखो सब बोलूँगा ना, oh I don't game on my smartwatch, I don't listen to music on my smartwatch, but I know you are looking more from gestures POV. I got to know about it as I went ahead in the questions. Then I was like, अरे 6th question में समझा रहे, first question का आंसर better हो सकता था.
Yeah.
So a lot of those questions, I guess, that changes. And this is from a very user POV. But from your portfolio point of view, your project should have a short intro. I need to know. I need to know what you've done, how you've done it. Product basic story तो दो कि क्या चल रहा है. Then just directly jumping on to, I researched. What research? I don't know what you're talking about. Because then you're going to tell me an entire story about your friends without even telling me who these friends are.
Correct.
Maybe your friends are sitting in front of me and you're just talking about a story and how do I get the context for it, right? So I guess that's something important, setting up a good context.
Okay.
Need not it always create a bias, but there needs to be some context to drive in a correct direction.
Now, okay. So a lot of things you mentioned. Firstly, you said about show me the failures that you've gone through.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of us are not very comfortable. We think that failures ko dikhana hai. Now, keeping that aside, I think the listeners would understand what are your failures. Like till date, abhi tak humne jitna baat kiya hai in terms of. I mean, I'm not going for Microsoft OnePlus. We'll move that. Like abhi aage jayenge iske baare mein. But up till now, 3 failures which made you learn something and you have inculcated that in your life?
To be honest, 3 is a very small number. We fail literally every other day. Like you fail to plan out a small thing throughout a week, and probably 1 week, like you just fail to plan that particular sprint or a week or just the way that you really want to work at. So with the lifestyle that I have, I'm teaching for the weekends at Microsoft, at MIT Shillong. I have to work for Microsoft during my week. I also have like these one-on-one mentorship sessions. I also teach at MIT a lot of times. There is quite a few things that I do. I also love to run. I also love to travel. There are quite a few things that I have to balance. So just balancing those things well, we fail in those things and you just learn.
Yeah.
And I guess you fail every day, you fail every other time. Like it's just something that you learn from it. So I don't think so like 3 major setbacks aise kuch hai, like to particularly mention. But I would rather say like just like think more on the setbacks now that you've put failures as a point there. I would rather say like failure to put myself even more when I should have was something that I learned really later in life, that I wish I didn't doubt myself back in the day and I just was like, cool, this is how I am. Like these are the things that I know. Like a failure rather would be to not put myself out there even more than I could. Shying away from thinking that, oh, people in my class are way better, because when I started for my masters, I was 23.
You're the youngest in your...
Yeah, and I was one of the youngest in my batch, and there were people who came down with experience. There were people who had been in the industry, and I come from commerce. I come from the real UX than more technical UX, and there were people with more technical knowledge and hands-on about softwares and stuff. And here I am just a commerce kid sitting in a lecture, looking at everybody else who's already probably achieved a lot of things, feeling super inferior to everybody. And I'm like, how am I going to do this? And there was a break point where after my first time, I was like, I don't want to do this. This is not what I'm here for.
Yeah.
I just feel suppressed. I feel like everybody else is taking it over, and somewhere, I don't know how, but yeah, like MIT didn't let us switch back then. And I was like, okay, let's try it out once. And I had a word with probably friends and family, and they were like, are you sure you want to switch again? Like you already switched. And low-key pressure was built like, oh, like you're one of those like who's switching everything and you're pivoting. And I was like, okay, let's give it a try. Probably people know a lot of things, but still we are in the same boat. So let's think of being in the same boat. And first time passed by and I started understanding things more, and I started understanding corporate better. And I landed up a job at Flipkart, my first internship ever. And that's where I guess I realized that, okay, there is something that we can do. So that setback of me thinking I wasn't good enough, that does happen even now. Self-doubting is something that designers do on side. Like that's like a side hobby of all of us. We think that, oh, we are not good enough because there is so much else happening in and around of us that we think that. So I guess that would be first setback of me not believing enough in myself initially in my career, and then just getting to know that, oh, you're worth it. So I guess that would be one of the setbacks. Other than that, it's just, like, I don't think so. Like there are, like particular failures. I just feel like there are small failures that just make you who you are, and majorly they pivot around either opportunities not taken versus things not planned well versus you just redo.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So Flipkart,
Yeah.
how was that? Like that was, I think, the transition from college to industry.
That was madness. Yeah. We weren't even supposed to go for that internship because really early on in the game, and we were suggested that you should go for summer internships, and somebody who doesn't really come from a tech background, it was super scary. And I reached out to a lot of people on LinkedIn and I was like, hey, I'm looking for internship. And they were like, we are not really looking for UX people right now, XYZ. And
We are not looking for UX people. How's that possible?
because for 2 months, people don't really look at UX because they need people with a longer timeline. They were like, we need somebody who can put more time with us, and we want somebody on in-house when you're here. We don't want somebody working from home, and work from home wasn't a big thing. This is like pre-COVID era. So they were majorly like, oh, Rushab, 2 months is too short for a UX designer to come and join us. So we don't really think, but we don't mind looking into a 6-month internship for you. So maybe you can come back again. And I'm like, okay, cool. Understood. And I just tried to reach out to more and more people. And somewhere I gave like a few interviews, and Flipkart happened. And Flipkart was like, Rushab, we are not sure if this is right up your alley, but we like what you're doing. We like the visioning, and we like that you do research. So we are not looking at UX right now, but we are looking more from somebody who can help us create better experience for our website, for a lot of landing pages. So this can be you working with brands, you working with the visual team, might be working on creating and designing banners. So you never know what the role is. And I was like, cool, let's do this.
Yeah.
And I literally just said yes because I'm like, Flipkart, first internship ever. It was Bangalore. And I was like, what's the harm? There was nothing to lose. I was going to learn either ways and let's do it this way. When I got through Flipkart, then I realized, oh, like I'm really not doing UX here at all. It's a lot different than what I was thinking. And then I started looking around, talked to people, managed to get through a UX manager, sat with him. I told him, I don't mind doing overtime. These are the timelines that I work at. Do you have anything that I can do? I would just be. You guys talk, I'll sit. If you need any help with smallest things, I'll do. You need research, I'm good at it. I can help you with that. So I have quite a few things on my plate. Maybe I'm not the best with tools, but I'm great with a few other things and maybe I'll learn from you. And he was like, cool, like extra person, extra hands is always good. So you can just come and join by and da-da-da. So I was balancing these two different teams. One team that I was really working for and another team that I was overtiming for. So I would just sit with them after my actual timings of work and I would try to understand what they are doing. And I ended up building tables component for Sleek UI. And I guess that was something that an opportunity created by myself after going into a job where I thought UX nahi hoga, and I ended up doing one of my favorite UX projects because I researched upon tables, which sounds super stupid that what do you research on tables? You already have an Excel sheet. But the amount of things that I got to learn there, which again, and the best part was it was live in 6 months. So I worked on a real project in 2 months. I researched, I designed, I presented before leaving and some great feedback, great connections. And I was like, oh, that's crazy. That's massive. Like I created something in UX and I already learned TPD as well because visual design was my actual project that I was doing there. And this ended up being an actual project too because I full-fledgedly presented single-handedly to a larger team who was actually managing it. And they told me on the last day that, hey, Rushab, you're implementing whatever you've done. And I was like, okay, so this was supposed to be a side gig. It wasn't even supposed to be something that happens and goes live. I was just there to support.
Yeah.
And the entire time I was working on it thinking that I learn and maybe they get some extra help or they just get some extra context without even thinking that I was implementing it. So yeah, you just need to look for opportunities. If they're not, they just create one. Like just, you need to do that. I don't think so they're going to fall in your basket. Yeah, le lo, kaam hai. So yeah, that's how it happened. And yeah, I guess that's where I started believing in myself even more because after I came back, I was like, oh, I work pretty good after looking at my peers and showing them ki, yeah, what do you guys think? Because you have been in industry, maine ye kiya hai, and great feedback from people. And I guess one thing really good that photography and storytelling at my initial stage taught me to take was feedback.
Yeah.
Because I was the youngest. I was right out of school. So everybody knew that they couldn't treat me like, oh, nahi, bahut careful rehna. No, they were really harsh at me. Let it be composition, storytelling, the words I was using, the way I was just trying to depict things or the directions that I was giving. All of those things, they were so critical. And that's where I learned to take all of it. And I'm like, haan, theek hai, main hu bura, nahi aa raha hai. But I learned and things got better. And I guess that's where even I implemented on you guys when I'm teaching you or anybody else. I'm like super critical on really smaller things.
Yeah.
They don't even matter. Zero. But one thing that I know is you guys now know how to think to a level where you weren't actually thinking at. So I guess that's what helped me really well. And that's how Flipkart, I guess, happened. And that's how the journey became better for me.
So from Flipkart to Oneplus.
So after Flipkart, it was actually LV Prasad in Hyderabad. That was my grad project.
Oh, I thought Oneplus was the grad project.
No, Oneplus was actually my second job ever. So the journey has been, I went to Flipkart for my summer internship. Then I joined LV Prasad. That's a eye optic health hospital based out of Hyderabad. One of the biggest and the massivest risk I would ever take. And one of the biggest ever project that I've worked on. The greatest impact that I would ever create. And I don't think so I would ever be prouder than that, if that's a word, about myself. But yeah, that was something that really changed my life. And that's something that changed everything for me because I just got confidence that I don't think I would actually get or actually even thought I was capable of doing. And then I joined Deloitte and then Oneplus and now at Microsoft. So that has been the journey. But
So what was the project?
Oh, LV Prasad, again, great story here. So LV Prasad came down to MIT. It was a campus recruit, but the main said that was sent, we are looking for industrial designers. We need somebody who can work on hands-on products. And we need somebody to jo bhi tha. So they needed industrial designers, proper product designers, physical product pe kaam karenge. And I really liked what they were doing. I went to their website and I'm like, shit, they're into innovation, they're into healthcare, they're doing some crazy innovative things in general and I want to be part of them. And like I already applied to quite a few jobs for internships and probably cracked a few, couldn't crack a few, and wasn't happy with jo crack kiya usse. I was like, not really aligning for my grad project, because obviously when you're in college, you're like, oh, grad project to acha rehna chahiye. Like it should be something that is cool, because that's the last time you're taking like a risk. Also the last time that you're gonna be graded in your life. Like, it's a closure to your journey, and you would want a good closure to it. So I was like, okay, and I just replied to the mail saying, hey, LV Prasad, blah, 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 Ashish, somebody was taking care of it. I'm a UX designer. This is what I do. I'm attaching my portfolio. And I really love what you guys are doing. Is there any way that you have any digital experience that you guys are looking at? I am good at research, and I really think I would be a good asset there. Let me know. I'm not good at 3D. I don't do product. But anything else apart from it that you think I can work with, please get back to me and let me know. And surprisingly, a day after, they're like, hey, Rushab, we actually do have something, but it is around VR. Have you worked at around VR ever? And it's a project. It's going to be like a fast-paced project. We have only 6 months to go live, which align with my timeline. So I'm like, okay, interesting. And quite a few things around it were, we need somebody who understands basics of coding. You need to know Unity. You need to be good at research. We need somebody who knows Telugu and quite a few other things with it. And yeah, because they needed humongous user research. So they're like, if you know Telugu, it's a pro. It wasn't like a mandate. It was if you know, well and fine. And I was like, okay, I guess I can check quite a few boxes here. And I was like, hey, Ashish, like, I guess I'm good at quite a few things and I'm really interested in the project. Can you give me more insight after talking to him about the project that I'll just come to? I was like, okay, this is really interesting, because now I'm working at a hospital. I have to work with people who talk in Telugu. So I need somebody who can support me there. I have to work Monday to Saturday. Sundays was the only day that was off. We had a very strict timeline. It came down with, you have to wear formals, you have to be well groomed. There were quite a few other things, which at that point in time I was like, because I worked at Flipkart, right? So I was super casual. I would go in shorts and I would be really me, and it was fun and rainbows. And I'm like, okay, this is really strict. I'm getting into a more well-groomed environment. I have to be really poised and I have to be more serious because it's healthcare, and I'll be working at an hospital. So I took some time. I was like, can I really do it? Because knowing myself, I really love freedom. I really love to be a bit more open and things around it. Also, I have never worked in VR. This is my second ever workplace opportunity, and I was scared to mess it up. So I took good 2 weeks, and this was a point where basically I sat with my sister and I'm like, I have an opportunity in hand, and it's a great project. It's something that I really want to work at, but they need these skill sets, and I don't know if I possess them. I don't know how to work in VR. I've never done it. She's like, who has? And I'm like, nobody that I know of. She's like, somebody would. I'm like, yeah. And she's like, that can be you. And she's like, why not talk to them if they think, and if they are like, the interviews did happen. So it's not like the essay opportunity. I was going to interview liya. I presented myself. They liked. So the team lead was like, I really like the way you think. I really like the proactiveness there. I really like the way you're putting yourself out. And I guess you can be a good person to work with. And I see you working with our team. And I was like, okay, but I never asked them, like, I don't know VR, what to do. I talked to people around me and my friends, and they're like, Rushab, just take this. This is so you. This is something that you always wanted to do. You went there, and why not just take the risk? What's going to happen? You'll fail. And I'm like, exactly, I'll fail. And that's massive. And they're like, but you'll fail in VR. You're not feeling in the world that we are getting opportunities into. So a few of my friends already got through some companies, and they're working on pretty basic e-commerce stuff or websites and softwares and whatever. Nobody had this opportunity in hand because I created it again, because I messaged and मैंने try किया मिलने के लिए. And that's why I said yes. And I was like, yeah, like I'll join you guys and move to Hyderabad. It's all good. And then I joined, and the project became like, we won NASSCOM's Design for Good award for healthcare. I met the Vice President of India then, Venkaiah Naidu, and he tried on our product. He tweeted, like, he took pictures with us, tweeted up pictures, and he wrote down, like, people are working really great in innovations and stuff. I met the entire Sunrisers Hyderabad team, and they checked things. We met Queen of Essex from London, and she loved the product. And I'm like, okay, this is what I really want to do. Like, this is what I really love, and this is so good. So this is the end of it. But the journey was crazy. The journey here was, you go to your office, you have to wear formals. Straight, top to bottom, you need to be really well groomed, and that's not the personality that I really thought a designer would carry. And I'm like, let's try it out. Kia try. I went there. First thing I was given was books of optometry, year 1 and year 2, and I was told to read it. They're like, Rushab, we need you to read this. And I'm like, it's healthcare. It's like, it's books, it's syllabus. And they're like, yeah, you need to know it. And I'm like, can you give me more context? And they're like, you know what project we are looking at. And I had to learn anatomy of an eye, anatomy of an eye, and I'm reading about it. And then I had to learn about this medical condition called glaucoma, and I had to read more about it. So I literally was reading syllabus of people who are becoming optometrists and just, like studying more about optometry and in general about what healthcare is, how and what an eye does and medical conditions, and too detailed, and it was really fun. I'm like, oh shit, I'm exploring something really cool. We're doctor ban ke ja raha hu ghar pe, yeah, let's do this. But yeah, like all of that happening, then I had to learn all of it. And then slowly we have to do contextual inquiry, wherein basically I used to be at hospital inside. Okay, rather, like I said, let's put more context to what I was doing. So this project was, we were trying to build a virtual reality environment for detecting early detection of glaucoma. Glaucoma is a medical condition where people start losing their eyesight a patch at a time.
Okay.
It starts from your periphery and goes to your solid cornea, and because our eye is super smart, it actually patches down those black spots, so you don't really know that you can see at particular places. So probably if I'm looking that way, you are here, there can be a chance that I'm missing out on you completely, and my eye is making up, just thinking wall continue more eye.
Okay.
And I was like, this is crazy, and this is something that is undoable. So you lose your vision at the end of it. And the machinery is super expensive. Very few hospitals even had machinery enough to detect glaucoma. And we were building something around it. And I was like, shit, this is super cool. And I was like, okay, let's do this. So that was basically what we built. So I was supposed to build a VR environment. I was supposed to build a remote environment. That's a tangible remote. I was supposed to build instruction manuals, branding for it, user interviews. And I had 6 months. And I also had to do a lot of contextual study and inquiry around it. So yeah, it was like a massive load that I took upon myself, but it was fun as well. I really loved doing what I did. But yeah, so that's how it was. And then I started going to hospitals. I would sit with doctors, and really great thing that happened was I could actually sit with real-time users. I interviewed 400 to 500 people in 6 months, one-on-one. And I was given somebody who could speak Telugu to make it easier for me. And I was doing rapid prototyping, and I was trying my prototypes every day. We were getting reports, and it was crazy. Like the way things were happening in that entire environment was so fun. I like, that was, I guess, the time where I was like, oh, this is impact, because I know like I'm changing lives. And if you want more details, you can actually check my BNs, because it's a huge project. But yeah, like that's what I worked on. And yeah, so I guess that was it. Like we were just, like creating UIs, getting it tested, remote control, like a remote pe we are sticking glue, and we are putting down random things, and we are seeing how the tactile, like just the experiences, and just making it better every day, and making it live by the end of 6 months was massive. It was fun.
Yeah.
So that was a project with Prasad that I'm super proud of. Like one of my favorite times in my journey, something that really made me believe in doing greater things. And that's my also introduction to healthcare. And I was like, oh, this is something that I really can do.
Amazing.
For a longer time.
Amazing. Now, okay, this is done. Let's go to Deloitte. I want to break down these 3 things, and I want to see how different every experience was and how you built through it. So I don't really want to be like, oh, how's your life at Microsoft?
Yeah.
I want to be like, how is it different from Oneplus?
So just to put it easy, right? So that 2 places that we've just talked of, Flipkart was super fun, great people, and very chill. Again, 2 mahine ka tha, so expectations we come there, and I was super young as well. So they were like, yeah, ठीक है, like just try on, and you just, like try to be that butterfly, just trying a lot of new things. And I took Prasad. It was a small team of 3 of us. I was the only designer, so I didn't really have somebody I could look up to. So there was no mentor there. So I had to pivot a lot of things on my own. We had me, we had a developer in Unity, we had a doctor, and we had an optometrist. Itne hi log the team mein. So it was like a small scale business crunched into one. A lot of self-learning happened there.
It was more about self-learning.
Yeah, so it was super like self-learning and things, because smaller team and smaller environment. And this isn't like a design studio.
Yeah.
Now like you're looking at an hospital come innovation center. These guys probably haven't seen experience designer before. I was the first ever.
Yeah.
They had a lot of product designers though. So they had set up some expectations, but still it's new to have designers and work alongside others. So we had to build a lot of like relationships there, and a momentum there, and a story or a journey there. So it was that. So I learned a lot of things there. But then that's when I realized that this is really good, but I really need a mentor in life. I really need somebody who can also help me to tell me if I'm doing good or bad. I don't want to like make a lot of mistakes and learn from them. Rather, somebody just guiding me to be a bit better would also help.
Yeah.
And then yeah, I guess this was my summer. This was my like grad project,
Right.
and then like there are like companies coming down for placements and all, and I was like, okay, let's try it out. I had offers from
So from there you got Deloitte.
yeah, so I selected that. So there were like multiple companies coming down to MIT, and I was like, I would rather go to Deloitte. I don't know why, but I really felt like Deloitte would be a good place to start. I had offers from my previous options as well, but I somewhere was very inclined towards staying back in Maharashtra for a while
Okay.
because I tried. I was in Hyderabad, I was in Bangalore. I was like, let's try Pune, Bombay, something, and Deloitte was there. So Deloitte was working in and around of Bombay, and I was like, cool, let's try it out. And I gave an interview, and that's the only company that actually applied to from MIT. I was like, the only place I want to be. If I'm here, well and fine, or we'll look for something else.
Well-
So no other companies I applied to, only Deloitte, and the interviews went super good. And I was like, okay, this sounds good. This is fun. And I was the only guy from Masters. I guess I was the only guy from my class who joined in. Yeah, I was selected probably or joined either. I'm not really sure, but I was the only one. So everything was going to be fresh for me. No friends from college. Nobody who I already know from college were going to join. So people were new. And I was like, okay, let's try this
Let's
out.
do this.
And I wanted to get into consulting. That's another point. So I did a product company, Flipkart. I did this semi-pro-try consultation because then you get to work on multiple projects, shorter timelines. That was what I used to think back in the day. कि बहुत project पे काम करने मिलेगा. I wouldn't be restricted to a particular space. Flipkart was e-commerce. This was healthcare. But now Deloitte is fluid. I can get into finance. I can get into ONGC. I can get into food. I can get to anywhere. So I'm like, let's try this out. Another reason of selecting Deloitte. So this is the time when I was like money over. I didn't choose money over what I want to do. So there was like companies paying better, but this is where I was like, maybe exploration is good. So initially I want to explore ka acha lag raha hai, and then we'll think of money. So that's how I got into Deloitte. And Deloitte was super, super good. One of my favorite places to be. Also one of the places where I actually was in office. This is again pre-COVID, a year before COVID. So I was with Deloitte for a year. I worked at Deloitte for 2 years. 1 year in office, 1 year COVID. But the experience was so good. Like I really loved the way things were. I had great mentors. I found like Kavita was one of my like senior designers who worked with me on a project, and I guess she taught me how to be a good designer. She taught me how you need to be with people and how to manage things well. And a lot of learnings coming down from her helped me be a better designer. And she made sure that like I knew how I was supposed to be treated. A lot of things. So it was one of my favorite things to work on. And the product that we built there we built it from scratch, and we sold it for like 200 million, and that are like dollars. So that was like a massive product. And again, healthcare. So I was working with US healthcare, and I had to learn about, so a few things that I learned here and I had to manage was how do you work in different time zones. I was the only designer UX person from India. We had another people who were VDs as well who were working from India. So smaller team from India and smaller team from US working together. So just managing those timelines, knowing how to balance those time zones and work together cohesively on a global platform was something that I learned. Another blocker here was now you have to learn the American insurance system because that's what we were working on. So just conducting some interviews, and it's very tricky to get into healthcare and US.
Yeah.
So conducting interviews with correct people and knowing how they work and a lot of things, that blocker was massive. And that was something I was like, okay, I really need to understand how to do. So setting up user interviews and talking and getting in more and more knowledge just to know कि करना क्या है. क्योंकि हमें हमारा इंश्योरेंस सिस्टम तो पता है, उनका और ट्रिकी है. So how do you know certain jargons? So I had to learn and understand a lot of those things. But like that was again a great journey.
Yeah.
I worked on multiple projects there. I worked on healthcare. I worked with automobile. I worked with during COVID. I worked with Bath and Body Works and McDonald's and quite a few things there. It's a great fun environment and people. And we had a lot of young people who joined with me from Bachelors of Symbiosis and Deloitte and MIT, which made it even more fun. The environment was super chill and yeah, like a great place to be. So I really look back at it and yeah, like just a very different journey at all three places.
And now, Oneplus.
Oneplus was again, so like now we are getting into COVID. So now we are getting into the work from home environment. So I worked with Deloitte. We sold this product and then you reach to a saturation point.
Exactly.
You reach to a point where you are like, oh, healthcare, I've been doing this for 1.5 years. Can't I move out? And I get to a place where I'm like, something new. is there a way to be there? As designers, we always want something new. We always want to switch it up. We always want to get into something new. You always want to get into kuch to bhi naya chahiye, thoda break chahiye is cheez se. So that is another thing that we struggle with quite often. And that's when I got an opportunity from Oneplus. So again, I just replied to one of the LinkedIn posts that the head of Oneplus, then Visual, had put down, and we talked. And then I was like, oh, interesting. Like, are you looking at? I am a huge Oneplus fan.
Okay.
I've had all phones by OnePlus. I love the Cyanogen that they came up with. Cyanogen MOD was their first OS. I've had all the phones by them, and I was super impressed by the way they were marketing their things. They were placing their products, the price placement, the marketing placement, the product placement, the use of materials and all. And it was something that I was like, oh, if I can ever work at OnePlus, I'm never going to leave that opportunity. And it came down, and I was working on their operating system. It was distant. I was working from home, but one of my favorite experiences, because this is the time when I'm working on a B2C product for the first time, which was impacting right away.
Yeah.
I'm designing something now. In 3 months, it was live, and crazy good experience. Absolutely loved the way things were there. And yeah, I worked with them for a year. I worked on the Oxygen OS. And yeah, I guess it was super good journey. Like really new learnings, because now you're working. So every sector, if you see, I've worked for a very different placement of product. With Flipkart, I was working for internal system जो बनाना है उनको, sleek UI जो internal Flipkart के employees use करेंगे.
Okay.
With Prasad, I built something that it was being used globally for detection, but it was like a VR space, and it was for doctors and patients and optometrists and nurses. With Deloitte, I was working on a lot of US and Canada based systems, healthcare, and a new learning there. It was more of a B2B product for insurance companies, and we were building a whitelisted product, and then we were selling it to company. And with OnePlus, I was working on an operating system, and I was working for real-time customers who are going to be using the phone. And I'm like, oh, this is something that I really want to try.
Yeah.
And that's what I learned there. And it was really good. Like there, I learned how fast-paced world can actually get, because B2B, you don't really get that easy feedback. The feedback chains are slow. You get to work and explore a bit more. There you are more unsteady about things. So you have more bandwidth of keeping maybe this, we can do that. But when it comes to B2C, ye aisa chahiye, ye aisa abhi roll out hona chahiye. We have these strict timelines. This is what our users are. And you also need to look at globally, kaun kya kar raha hai. China has restrictions on XYZ things. You have to look at legalities. You have to look at a lot of other things. So with OnePlus, it was fun. It was one of the best things that I've done, I feel. The way the entire style sheet and the entire design style guide was put down, and how you play with this global design system. How do you collaborate with people sitting in China and understanding unke viewpoints kya hai, because they don't know a lot of things that you already know. So they have certain legal issues versus we have certain legal issues. Everybody has those differences from where we come from, and you need to design something globally. So that was super fun. And here now you need to look at a small change that you make would change the design system of an entire operating system. So you can't really be impulsive. You have to be super cohesive. You have to be super mindful. You should know what things you're doing. And yeah, this is really good. And here also, like, I guess, again, great opportunity on my plate. I worked on this shelf component, and it was again something super fun. Yeah, so.
And now, the present journey, Microsoft, how is that going, sir?
Microsoft is good. It's been more than a year, and again, work from home, So I work with team in Seattle. So until now, I guess until 2 months back, I again went back to healthcare, American healthcare with Microsoft. But one great thing that helped me was a lot of knowledge that I brought from Deloitte, a lot of things that I did there. Probably just, like starting a product from scratch with them, whitelisting and selling it. I had a lot of information from what and how the insurance scene is in the US.
But how is Microsoft connected to healthcare?
Okay.
I'm not.
So Microsoft has quite a few other things. So I work for Microsoft Cloud.
Okay.
So I work cloud for healthcare.
Okay.
So that's how I joined Microsoft. So Microsoft has Bing. It has Microsoft Windows. So there are a lot of teams, a lot of different types of teams. So I'm not working on a B2C product by Microsoft. I'm working more on a B2B product.
B2B.
So Microsoft has a lot of clouds. One of them is healthcare. We have retail, we have sustainability, we have manufacturing, we have automobile, we have a lot of things. So I joined the healthcare team. So having a lot of previous knowledge from Deloitte helped me implement a lot of that knowledge here, and that also made me more confident about what I was going to do with them. And I was working with team based out of Seattle. we are working on quite a few things with them a year in, and I was presented with an opportunity. So again, so Microsoft was like, oh, we are looking for some people who can work with manufacturing. And somewhere I thought that that is something new that I would really want to know, because I, again, like worked for quite some time for healthcare, and, there's no harm on trying something new. And I just talked to my manager and the leads, and I'm like, hey, do you think like I can actually go there? And they actually presented me, and they're like, hey, Rushab, like there is an opening in manufacturing, and they're looking at this, and whatever, like we feel like you can actually work better. So Microsoft literally has been super good to me, and I've just, like gotten quite a few things the way that I would want to. There was flexibility. We worked on some really good insights, and the way that we just work here is so different. And just managing timelines and just working with an entire team sitting in the US and you are in India.
Yeah.
Just finding the way how you bridge that gap of conversations, communications was something that I learned here. And when my manager came down, he's like, hey, Rushab, we are looking at somebody to join manufacturing and automobile. There'll be a lot of AI work, and we feel that you are going to be good at it. Do you think you wanna, you
Give
would
it a
like
shot.
to move? And right now I've just joined. It's been a month. I'm working with manufacturing, and with manufacturing I'm doing more of service experience design than just user experience, something that I've really wanted to do. So yeah, I'm just pivoting towards a bit more of service design than UX. And yeah, it's been a great journey. Like hopefully I'm getting into slowly into AI for automobile as well. So
Yeah.
quite a few things around, like AI are happening in both of the fields. So yeah, let's see like how it goes. Manufacturing is new, but healthcare was super good. Like we worked on 7 to 8 different smaller products within healthcare. I had to learn a lot of new terms that I didn't even think of while working with Deloitte, because this is more mature of a product. So they had some different clientele as well. But yeah, it was super good. And I guess like there are quite a few new things that, like I've tried over the years that actually help be better. Like, just creating a North Star for yourself. Because when you're working in B2B, right, there is not a lot of scope in creating beautiful UIs or, oh, we focus on UIs. No, we focus on content. We focus on journeys. We are focusing on how easy it is to navigate.
Yeah.
We focus highly on accessibility. And all of those things, when they come down, you also need to understand that थोड़ा सा UI पीछे रह जाता है, क्योंकि बाकी की चीज़ें बहुत ज़्यादा important है. And once these things are there, your UI can be simple. But something that helps me is I always keep a North Star design. I'll create like a crazy inspo board कि यार ऐसे कुछ बन सकता है, so that everybody knows my vision. I know what my vision is, and maybe I can just push the barrier a bit more.
Yeah.
And that has helped me a lot in general in that entire journey of, like just creating better designs, or how do I deal with that monotonousness of अरे यही product पे 1 साल से काम कर रहा हूँ, bore हो गया. So how do I break with it, right? So it's like just creating this really fancy inspiration, so that I know where I'm pivoting, looking at other things that are happening around Microsoft, joining smaller teams.
Yeah.
I teach.
Yeah.
Something that is one of the best things that, like that happens is me teaching, me going out and teaching. It just gives me a better viewport, just looking, like working with people. So yeah, I guess that also is something else that works really well.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, amazing. And I think you did tell me about when we were just discussing sometime before that, you weren't really into the teaching bit. It just happened on its own. You were in a time of your life where you're like, kuch aur karne ka man hai. Then you just stumbled upon, and I'm not kidding. A big, like, like MIT is a big institute, and a lot of UX people are like, Rushab sir. So, I mean...
Are they? Oh,
Yeah, of course, of course. It's not news. It's not news. Please, you know it very well. But yeah, I mean that's crazy, and I think
yeah.
you're going on a. I mean, I have no one to think. This is
Teaching to just came, yeah. So after masters was done, I joined Deloitte, and I got called from MIT, and they're like, hey Rushab, like we have this new batch starting at Ujjain, and we feel there are certain skills that you possess that we can actually utilize for our students there. And I'm like, okay, cool. Like, are you sure? Like, I'm not even like convocation भी नहीं हुआ अब तक, अभी तो बस join किया मैंने. And I was like, okay, cool. Again, same thing. Like, let's try. What's the harm in the end? And somewhere I know like how important a mentor is. Something that I really realized in my journey, that I didn't have mentors, because back in the day it wasn't that easy to find people in UX. Jitna bhi accessible bhi hai. And I didn't really have that correct people around me, because a lot of my friends, my family come from either doctors or engineers or business people. So I didn't really have that. So I always had this thing that if I could ever mentor somebody or help somebody in their journey, that would be something that I really wanted. And this was my first step towards it. And I started teaching at Ujjain. That was my first batch back in 2019. And then I taught you guys, and I've been teaching at MIT. Now we started with Meghalaya. So yeah, I guess majority of the reason that I'm doing this is because I know how important mentors are.
Mentorship is.
And yeah, like teaching is just fun. It is so giving, and it is just so much like you just know the impact that you're creating on somebody's life. And I guess that's why like teaching was never like, oh, I wanna earn out of it, or like I've never seen coming to MIT and teaching students from a place in point where extra income. It was more like, oh, I can actually change somebody's life. Like there can be a way that like I'm impacting them a bit more, or maybe like I can just put down real timeness onto paper. Because for me, when I'm teaching, it is more like I'm throwing a tech party. It's more like, oh, let's go and like let's try things out. And yeah, I would say like it is more of like just throwing a small party which is around technology, and you just are there. I can't do PPTs. That's not my thing. That has never been my thing. I can't be like, oh, PPT one, I teach. I would have something for more context, but you would never see what I'm speaking being on the PPT. I would rather want you to, listen to me, and it's more cohesive. Yeah. I prefer taking small activities. I basically do everything that I would have wanted
Someone would do it.
Yeah, someone to do it for me.
Yeah.
Or something that I was like, yaar, aise padhate to maza aata. And I'm like, let's try it out. And it worked well. And students loved it. And something that also helped me was I do small activities. I go out of context for them. So if you go to my LinkedIn, you'll see one Spotify carnival that we did with my lab.
I'm not sugarcoating anything. Right now I went to Bangalore. 3 people from UX asked me about this. When I told them that you're the next guest who I'm hosting, they're like, oh, that Spotify thing. Here I am.
Interesting. Okay.
A lot of people have noticed it. They asked me, what is it about? And I was like, good question. Let me also see what it's about. But no. Like, yeah, it's catching a lot of fire because अगर आप कभी UX के बारे में सोचते हो presentation में, you just think, okay, charts, statistics, data, and you just have to say it. But that was when I saw UX as an experience that's out of the digital world. It's the same thing that Spotify is giving, but you're doing it.
Exactly. So, see, the thing with me is I have to teach masters, bachelors, and with Meghalaya, it is more experts. So, I have like people who have like 10 plus years of experience as well. So, I have to understand who I'm teaching. But when I know that I'm teaching a first year or a second year bachelor's batch, I need them to understand that experience designing, UX designing, is not just digital. That something called as experience exists, and you need to understand it in a different POV as well.
Yeah.
So majorly the reason that I did entire Spotify gig was I told them the basic thing was what is Spotify was a real-time store.
Yeah.
What experience is Spotify getting to you? And that's where we are like, I want something crazy. I don't want you to be like, oh, Rushab, can I redesign Spotify? No. I like let's think, let's make it more immersive.
Yeah.
Let's do some gamification. So I really know that students in general in UX, when it comes, they're like, oh, we never get to present, we are not working on something real time. And other people like from other disciplines, they're really making some products, they're making some models and a lot of things, and we somewhere feel like, I wish I could also do something more hands-on than a distant screen. Yeah. And I felt that, and I was like, oh, I really want my students to not feel otherwise. And how do I get UX into that scene, and how do I make them also present in front of people and make it more fun for them? Because I don't want it to be another UX lecture where, oh, ye to CT hai to Google Code se bhi ho sakta tha. So I wanted to do that. And the way that I get on table is I take real-time projects that I'm working on. I mix them with a lot of activities. Then I mix them with something that's trending already, so that it's more relatable for like students in general. And I wouldn't say like I'm a teacher. I'm more of a mentor. I'm somebody who's just going to be there to just give you some more explicit knowledge about how industry works. I'm going to take a lot of real-time data and push it onto your brains, because I need you to understand that real-time UX is different than what happens on paper. And I don't want you guys to be mechanical about it. You guys need to be fluid. And that's how the entire Spotify thing also happened. So if you go back and just see what we did, we created an immersive experience of, it was as simple as, just a booth that was created, pura black curtain lagaya. Under we created some really good lights. We gave everybody earphones, and then they had like 3 questions to answer. What is the feeling or emotion that you have? What is the vibe that you want? And da-da-da. Those 3 questions help my students just understand, okay, they are in a very mellow vibe. So they created playlist accordingly. Playlist ke baad, what they were feeling, lights were created accordingly. So you're changing decor, the way you were immersive, the way you could do. And then we also had like a different base created for it. We had fans, we had a lot of other things. We made it more immersive. That is experience designing. It is an experience that you're creating. We had some games. We had a photo booth. We had quite a few things that made you think like, oh, Spotify agar rehta to kuch, like, what do we do? Like, that's something, that also gets brains running. I don't want you to think like, oh hey, like guys, day one and UX ऐसा है and हम apps बनाते हैं. Like, can you please redesign this for me? I don't think redesigning should be the first thing. First thing should be what is experience. Do you know what experience is and how do you get it on table?
Yeah.
Once you know real time of experience, you just can slowly understand why and hows of the companies are, because it's super important for a UX designer to know whys and hows and whens and for whom and a lot of these questions. And if you can't ask and answer these questions, you already are failing to understand what you're doing. You're directionless. Then you're just assuming. I'm not saying assuming is wrong. I'm just saying that just assuming isn't the direction. So yeah, I guess that's how at least I get into teaching. And then, yeah, it should be more of a conversation around tech. And I don't just stick to topics. I also like try to talk and understand if they are like the students or the people in class who I'm actually communicating to, they know the latest technologies, they know latest trends.
Yeah.
So उनको भी मेरे से ज़्यादा पता है, मेरे को भी सीखने मिलता है. So why not have good conversations with them?
Yeah.
And a lot of people love this. Like students love somebody who can have real-time conversations with them. A small Instagram update changes a lot of things. And that's what my last batch, we were just talking about these things. And it was massive conversation. And I saw that people are getting more interested into it. And then I would use those points as examples. I would take them through what I'm learning real time, what I'm doing at Microsoft. If it's something that I can show them, I'll present or I'll just tell them like, ऐसे problem आ रहा था. And because a lot of things are NDA, we can't really talk about them real time. So I have to also think upon how do I tell them how we pivoted things, because they need to know.
Makes sense.
They need to know कि एक baseline है वो follow नहीं हो रहा है UX में. There are a lot of things. It's not what you read that happens. You need to be...
क्या बोल रही थी मैं? हाँ. Now this one question that you know, and we have to wrap it jaldi, is kids out there are very confused about what UX is. Is it research? Is it UI? Is it visuals? Is it implementing? What is it? Like half of them were like कि UX तो research ही है, उसमें मैं क्या करूँ? I'm not that good at research. I am so bad at research. You know, I'm not that into research, but
I
obviously...
wouldn't really say you're bad at it. See, so there's a very different way to perceive things. And again, as I said, like there is no correct or wrong thing when it comes to design. Research, you don't really need to think from a very strict analytical point of view. So I wouldn't say like you're bad at it. It's just that the technicalities of research is something that you don't really go towards, but you're still doing research. So research is not, oh, मेरे को analytics आना चाहिए, maths आना चाहिए. It's also about you know how to read markets, you know how competitors are doing, you know how to approach people. You are good at conversations, so you can do good user conversations and interviews. So there are a lot of points to it. So I wouldn't say like you're bad at it. It's just something that isn't your definition of UX, or that's not something that is your calling in UX. Like, oh, ये मेरा piece नहीं है. Research कोई और, like, ठीक है. It's not something that drives me in UX. Something else drives me. So yeah.
So everyone has a different definition of UX, right?
I would say UX doesn't really have a definition, and I would really not want it to be a square box, which is screens. That's the easiest way that I would put. UX is combination of everything. Just like I said, choosing a pen for your board exams. That's the easiest way. UX is in general a lot of things. It is not that simple. The concept is not that simple, but somebody who's beginning or getting into UX, you just need to understand that UI, UX, VD, interactions, micro interactions, there are a lot of words to it. But experience design in general, I would say it is combination of a lot of things. Depending on what you are doing it for and who you are doing it for, the definition can change.
Okay.
If you're building a product for B2B, probably the definition changes from B2C. It may change for something else, So you need to understand that it's not just research that makes UX. It's not just UI that makes UX. It's not just great colors and typography. It's a cohesive area where everything blends together well. And you don't need to be amazing at at all of it. Sometimes there can be that you are great at UI. You might fall down on UX, but that doesn't mean that मैं either or करूँगा. Don't keep it as this or this. Always know this and this percentage can be different. It's like a relationship. It's just this one person can't drive it. Somebody needs to give 80 and the other person will give 20 and you can balance it. So balancing all of these pieces is super important. So in general, I would just say that UX is nothing but a lot of understanding your users.
Yeah.
Because in the end, we call it user research or user experience design. So when you call it user experience, it is like एक target audience है मेरे को उनके लिए कुछ एक अच्छा experience दे रहा है, उसका designing करना है. उस पे पहुंचने के लिए तुमको research की ज़रूरत है, नहीं वो तुम्हारा call है. But if you want, you research, you talk to them, you try to see them. So if you see what I did LV Prasad, right? I went to the hospital. I sat in the hospital to see मेरा पेशेंट मशीन के साथ कैसे बिहेव कर रहा है, मेरा डॉक्टर पेशेंट के साथ कैसे बिहेव कर रहा है, डॉक्टर आपस में कैसे कर रहा है, नर्स का काम क्या है. I noted down everything that they were doing. And then I'm like, how do I digitize this? Before digitizing, I'm like, इसको easy कैसे कर सकते हैं? Time कितना लग रहा है? What exactly am I trying to do? I'm trying to just create something that is going to be more accessible. So उसमें, so you need to know what you're doing and why you're doing before calling it. But you do all of that. And तेरे को फिर समझता है users को क्या चाहिए, users को क्या मिल रहा है, and उसको users को क्या देना है. Mix all of that. So then you research होने के बाद you just try to talk to users, gather insights, then you use your research insights and you see what's happening in the market. तो competitors को भी देख लिया, वो सबको इकट्ठा लेके you create a ball out of it. Then you put down, मेरा initial plan ये था, ये सब समझने के बाद मेरा plan ये हो गया है, मेरा new plan ये है. मेरे न्यू प्लान एग्जीक्यूशन के लिए मेरे को ये चीज़ें लगेगी. देन यू स्टार्ट फीचर लिस्टिंग देम, देन यू स्टार्ट थिंकिंग ऑफ व्हाट फीचर्स इट वुड हैव, व्हाट थिंग्स इट शुड हैव. Then once you have it, आई एम नॉट गोइंग इनटू अ रियल टाइम प्रोजेक्ट वेयर यू थिंक ऑफ फिजिबिलिटी एंड टेक्निकली एंड डेवलपर्स एंड ऑल. आई एम जस्ट थिंकिंग मोर ऑफ अ हॉबी प्रोजेक्ट अभी, ताकि ज़्यादा टेक्निकल नहीं होगा वो. एंड देन यू स्टार्ट थिंकिंग ऑफ कि अच्छा ये फीचर्स रहेंगे तो मेरे को क्या चाहिए. एंड देन you come down to a place where you're like, okay, मेरा यूज़र ये कर सकता है, ये सब होगा. And then you start for branding. All of that is also important.
Yeah.
Even if you are a UX person, you should know how a brand works.
Yeah.
Brand का feeling क्या है, how bubbly is the brand, is it fun, so that you also know vibe कैसे देना है.
Yeah.
Healthcare में जाके colourful app बनाओगे और if you're going for a clothing streetwear brand and you're making it very basic, it's also not gonna work. You need to know how the branding and brand placement is. So वो भी जान के फिर धीरे धीरे you create good typography and color palettes and you check for accessibility, something that everybody misses out on. Accessibility is super important. So accessibility, and then you create your design systems, and then you go to your wireframes, UI, all of those things. So it's a mixture of a lot of things. Yeah, it's a mixture of a lot of things. So you can't say कि ये UX है. There's no particular definition.
What do you think is the yellow in you? What do you think makes you different, makes you stand out?
Oh, that's really nice. Okay. I feel it's just something that really makes me different is I'm really taking up on a lot of opportunities that are thrown at me, and I'm also trying to balance them well, like just doing a lot of things together and balancing and trying to give my best at each of them. And yeah, I just feel like just trying to, I don't know, like how to articulate it better, but I see the yellow in me is just somebody who's just trying to still explore and learn each and every day to just become better at what I'm doing. At the same time, just trying to create a better impact somehow.
Yeah.
So I always try to, if I know कि I'm not, I feel, so a lot of time what happens is Microsoft पे बहुत काम किया because B2B product है, तो ऐसे लगता है यार 6 महीने से मैंने product किया but impact नहीं हो रहा है. I try to look at a different way to get that impact from, I would teach at MIT and it gives me that sense of, oh मैंने impact create किया. और अगर Microsoft में नहीं हो रहा है then मैं उसमें छोटा project कुछ निकाल के impact नहीं था. So I just try to find the things that are going to make me happy in particular places or situations that I'm in. And I always try to explore and learn and grow. And yeah, I guess that's my yellow.
Lovely. That's
What's your yellow, Anusha?
जब भी ये दूसरी तरफ से आता है, I'm like, I don't think so. Do you genuinely want to know what?
Yeah, fine. I would like to know.
I've never thought about it as a, but
Oh.
yeah, genuinely, I didn't really think about, oh, मेरा yellow है, मैं तो चलती फिरती yellow मुझे लगता है.
Okay.
Yeah.
But why?
I think the one thing that I really want to do is never say that I don't have time or
Okay.
something. Like, I get it that there are a lot of things happening. Maybe
We'll keep this in mind when I'm giving you next assignment.
done, actually done. Because this is something I've seen, like, you have to make time. And I try to make time for things. Yes.
Exactly, right? So you're trying to just balance things or you're like just
Yeah.
managing things times better. Yeah. Makes
Yeah,
sense.
and
Nice.
I really put a lot of effort in it. I don't want to tell someone ki, even if it's like friendships, if I'm having a lot of things and if someone says कि मेरा birthday, I won't say कि अरे time नहीं है यार आने के लिए birthday, नहीं, निकालो time. Time तो किसी के पास नहीं होता है. You just have to figure out how to do it.
True, yeah. I guess that does make sense, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, so that's the yellow. I think we are wrapping up with the podcast.
Perfect.
Yes, thank you so much. We are done.